Hello everyone, today is 21st of September. Now it's about 2:30 middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Godadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are plenty of news that I want to share with you in this update. Although before I start, let me first of all notice that it is Saturday, so I hope you will have a wonderful day and a great weekend. And also, several members of our community contacted me about some issues that they are experiencing on the Boosty platform. And I checked this platform. Mark, the moderator of our channel, helped me to resolve the issue. And when point is that this platform recently changed its partner bank, and therefore Patreons of our project that were donating through Boosty platform were unable to donate, and the issue is easily resolvable. All you have to do is to update your data that you already used on the platform, and then donation should go through. Magda donated herself, and initially she was denied, but once she updated her data that she already used on the platform, donation went through. So that's all there, friends. You just have to update your information, and their platform should work in normal ways as it was previously. Sorry for this inconvenience. It's not my fault. Just Boosty platform, as well as donation alerts platform, they changed their partner in financial institution bank, and that's why this issue was created. So all you have to do is just update your data, and that's it. Platform should work. And there are new Patreons that may decide to support channel today or sometime in the future. They should not experience any difficulties in that regards. That's been said. Now let's talk about news. And as I said, there are plenty of news, dear friends, and I will try to go at least through headlines and give you some basic information on reports that Russian media on the news that Russian media is reporting about. So first of all, this report from TASS news agency about statements of Russian Defense Ministry on progress of special military operation during the previous week. And the information is that just in previous week, your regime's formations lost 16,800 military personnel on all sectors of the front line. Huge losses, obviously, and one may wonder how long Kyiv regime's formations can sustain these heavy losses, although I will say until there are still military age men in Kyiv controlled territory, probably forceful mobilization will continue, and every single week or thousands and thousands of citizens of this failed state will be forcefully mobilized and sent to the battlefield. Also, Russian Defense Ministry is reporting, but overall, obviously, it is not really possible for Kyiv regime to sustain, for Kyiv regime forces to sustain such heavy losses for, for a very long time. So I guess just give it another couple of months, and probably we will see collapse of the Kyiv regime's formations all along the front line. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, according to Defense Ministry, during the previous week, Russian air defense systems intercepted 2 MiG-29s and 2 Su-27 fighter jets of the Kyiv regime, and also 305 different types of drones. RIA Novosti is reporting that since the beginning, according to yet again Defense Ministry, since the beginning of invasion of the Kursk region, and we have updated information on that, by the way, here. This is today's information, that since the beginning of invasion of the Kursk region by Kyiv regime's forces and the NATO mercenaries, they lost more than 15,650 military personnel, so almost 16,000 military personnel which is obviously a huge number. In terms of Kiev regime, this is at least 5 brigades, by the way, because Kiev regime's brigades are about 2,000-3,000, although brigades worldwide counts for 4,000 to 5,000 military personnel, but in Kiev controlled territory, brigades usually are about 3,000. So huge losses, and I guess at this point no one has any doubts that Kiev regime basically created a trap for itself by invading Kursk region, and already lost 5. If we take in account combined number of the losses, they already lost 5 brigades. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian armed forces during their previous night conducted long-range precise strikes on military industrial complex of the Kiev regime, and also some energo facilities were targeted, and some sources are reporting that at least in some cases Kinzhal hypersonic missiles were deployed by Russian aerospace forces for these strikes. RIA Novosti is also reporting that during the previous night, basically, RIA Novosti reporting that during the previous night, Russian air defense systems shut down 6 Neptune long-range missiles of the Kiev regime, also 10 HIMARS missiles and 3 Hammer glide bombs. Also during the night, Russian air defense system shut down 101 Ukrainian drone over the different regions of the Russian Federation, but unfortunately seems like in Kuban region of Russia, in Krasnodar region basically, in Tikharetsk district, some of drones maybe as a result of direct hit, or maybe as a result of fail of their destroyed fragments of the destroyed drones, but in Tikharetsk district, fire broke out, I guess, on a munition depot, and there were some explosions in this area. And this is my guess that it was a munition depot, because officially there are no reports what exactly caught fire and what is exploding. But situation is serious, and therefore 1,200 civilians were evacuated from Tikharetsk district. Maybe later on we will receive some additional information about situation in Tikharetsk area. But yet again, my guess is that probably, unfortunately, munition depot was targeted by Kiev regime during this large-scale drone strike. And well, probably I would not be mistaken if I will say that targeting data, flight path for these drones were provided by NATO, right? Which means NATO's direct involvement in this conflict, in my personal opinion. TASS news agency is also reporting that, well, according to officials in Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, radiation foam in vicinity of the power plant is in norm. There are no hike in radiation, and this was reported because day before yesterday, today, media is reporting about increased level of strikes towards Energodar city and Zaporozhye nuclear power plant by Kiev regime formations, and due to these strikes, basically officials were asked about situation on the plant, and no crucial infrastructure was damaged, and radioactive foam is in norm, but information itself, of course, once again highlights that Kiev regime is a terrorist regime, and uses nuclear terrorism as a means of achieving anything, of achieving, I guess, some political goals or military goals, but it will not work. It will not work. It didn't work before. It will not work ever. And one day, Kiev regime's members will pay heavy price for all the crimes that they committed against citizens of Ukraine and against citizens of Russia. I'm quite sure about it. And unfortunately, of course, these strikes on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant are authorized by Western ruling class itself, isn't it? Because they are in charge of Kiev controlled territory in reality, not Zelensky and his criminal associates, not those clowns, for sure. RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, so-called military journalist or military expert from Germany, Julian Repke, or whatever his name is, whose writes for Bild, I believe, was in hysteria, by the way, once he saw burning Leopard tanks in a Kursk salient area, and he started questioning once again all this Kursk invasion of the Kiev regime. And he is not alone; everybody is questioning this suicidal operation of the Kiev regime that allow Russia to decimate at least 5 brigades of their strategic reserves that Kiev regime had. So yes, I shared on my Telegram, by the way, videos of destruction of their STRV, Swedish STRV 122 tanks, which is based on Leopard 2s, obviously. And the reports are that Leopard 2s themselves are destroyed. So no wonder Julian Ropke, who is an extreme Russophobe, by the way, is in hysteria due to losses of these German weapons. RIA Novosti is reporting that Australia, by the way, is about to transfer to Kiev regime some 59 retired M1 A1 Abrams tanks. These tanks were retired in July of this year, and they will be replaced by newer version of this tank, M1 A2 SEP V3 tanks. And I guess these 59 retired tanks already are on the way towards the Kiev controlled territory, or maybe are already inside the Kiev controlled territory. If you remember, I said quite a few times that all these reports of the Western propaganda outlets that Kiev regime is running out of heavy armor, including Abrams tanks, which is true, by the way, from 31 that was delivered by US to Kiev regime, more than 20 are destroyed. At least several of tanks probably are experiencing some mechanical issues, and in that case only like 5-7 tanks maybe are operational right now. And I was saying that these publications are done in the Western media to prepare ground for additional supplies of these tanks to Kiev regime. And well, I guess I was correct. We are now receiving this information that at this point Australia will transfer some 59 Abrams tanks, and probably some other countries will follow Australia's footsteps. Possibly US itself will transfer additional Abrams tanks to Kiev regime also in relatively short time. Although, of course, by the way, Russian troops will destroy all those tanks as a very same way that those tanks already being destroyed. So, of course, no matter how many Abrams tanks or whatever other weapon systems Western ruling class will send to Kiev regime, they already lost this proxy war against Russia. They would not be able to turn the tide. They already lost this proxy war against Russia, and their only formalization is left. At some point, Western ruling elites will be forced to admit that they lost. It's just inevitable. RBK news agency is reporting that there was an article in Bloomberg according to which Zelensky, during his meeting with Biden, that should happen on 26th of September, if I remember correctly, will demand from Biden support to deal with Brussels, and he expects that Washington will basically have influence on Brussels bureaucrats, and Ukraine will be accepted in the EU, and also Ukraine will receive invitation to join NATO. None of it is happening, by the way, obviously, but probably, I don't know, maybe Bloomberg is mistaken, or maybe Zelensky had some poor quality powder abuser recently, and his brains are even more out of touch with reality than usual, because obviously Ukraine, the so-called Ukraine, by the way, this former Soviet republic, will never join NATO and will never join EU. Although, by the way, Ukraine as we knew it because western parts of Ukraine, most likely, as I said many times before, most likely will be claimed by Poland, Hungary, and Romania, and therefore, because these countries are members of EU and NATO, Western Ukraine eventually will be controlled by NATO, and there will be part of EU's jurisdiction. But rest of the Ukraine, no, it's not happening. Also, RBK News agency is reporting about some article in Strana UA, by the way, which is a Ukrainian propaganda outlet. And according to this Ukrainian outlet, there's some civil war inside the Kyiv regime, because rumors are that Budanov, head of main intelligence directorate of the Ukraine's Kyiv regime's defense ministry, and also defense minister Kirill Budanov and Umerov may be removed. Rustem Umerov may be removed from their from the duty, from their positions, which is definitely can be seen as an indicator that Budanov's camp lost its war with Zelensky's camp, because also rumors are, and Strana UA is confirming this information. Basically, this is not rumors. This is true that Umerov fired, by the way, two deputies of Budanov without even informing him about this decision, which is quite strange development, isn't it? But if you take in account, if you did not knew that there is a conflict between Budanov's camp and Zelensky's camp, then you will find it strange. But because we know that there is an internal conflict there, it does, not really surprised us that defense minister fired two deputies of head of main intelligence directorate without even letting Budanov know about it or anything. So if Budanov will be removed now from main intelligence directorate, then, well, he's finished, I guess, and he should watch his back now, because he has many enemies inside the Ukraine and also outside Ukraine. I remind you, dear friends, that Russian law enforcement agencies designated Budanov as a terrorist and extremist, and there are criminal cases open against him. TASS news agency is also reporting that head of European Commission Ursula Burtsula washing machine was in Kiev yesterday, by the way, and main topic of discussions between him and Kyiv regime was upcoming winter, how Kyiv regime gonna deal with all the issues that they will face, and how EU can help her with that. And Ursula Burtsula promised Zelensky's regime that Brussels will allocate 35 billion euros, by the way, as a loan for Kyiv regime, which means that these 35 billions will be taken from the pockets of the EU member state citizens and will be allocated to the pockets of the military-industrial complex of the West, and also to pockets of corrupt officials in Kyiv-controlled territory and Brussels, and EU corrupt officials that become filthy rich, obviously, since the beginning of special military operation, because they are using Ukraine as their biggest ever money laundering machine, right? That's what it is. But yet again, until citizens of EU member states are okay with so much of their money being basically stolen by their own officials, I don't think anything will change. We will see time after time reports that another couple of dozens of billions were allocated formally for Kyiv regime, and then there may be even more and more. And this story will only end once Russia will force Western ruling class to admit that they lost, and once they will capitulate, things might change. But until then, no. Also, RT is reporting that, according to CNN, by the way, and of course Russian media pays attention to Western media outlets also, and quite often are reporting information that Western media shared with the public. So according to this report, there was information on CNN that US is about to delay military aid to Ukraine. So weapons stockpiles shortages will likely force Washington to delay shipments of promised military aid to Ukraine, CNN reported on Friday, citing two US officials familiar with the matter. And well, first of all, if true, then, well, great. This is good news, obviously. If Kyiv regime will receive lesser weapons or munition. But secondly, I guess CNN is not really honest here, because I don't think any possible delays with their military aid to the regime are really related to shortages of the stockpile in the US. Most likely, these delays will be related with their increased tensions between Israel and Lebanon, because expectations are that a full-scale war may erupt between IDF and Lebanese Hezbollah. And in that case, most likely Pentagon and Washington will transfer weapons and munition to Israel, not to Kyiv regime. So probably that's what is happening. Although, of course, overall, even US stockpile at some point will shrink to the level that US would not be able to provide these additional shipments of their weapons and munition to client states. Let's continue. And the Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Annalena Baerbock, foreign minister of Germany, stated that without German support, Ukraine will most likely cease to exist. And therefore, Germany will continue to support Kyiv regime towards the end. Okay, and well, I will just say that first of all, well, it is sad that this proxy war was provoked by Western ruling class. But secondly, I mean, who cares if Ukraine will not exist on political map? This quasi-state should never exist on the political map in the first place. And I just remind you that this Soviet Ukraine was created by Bolsheviks, by the way. There was no Ukraine ever in history. There was no such a kingdom, no such a republic, no such nothing. In history don't know any Ukraine, by the way, right? Until Bolsheviks created this quasi-republic in Soviet Union on Russian land. Initially on Russian land, although later on, of course, Soviet Union took some territories from Poland and added to Ukrainian Soviet Ukraine. Then some territories was taken from Czechoslovakia and added to Soviet Ukraine. Although those territories from Czechoslovakia before First World War was a part of Hungary, I mean Transcarpathia region. And of course, Soviet Union took territories from Romania also and create Moldova, a new republic that become part of Soviet Union, and also some parts of Romania was given to whom? To Soviet Ukraine. This nonsense should never exist in the first place, but Bolsheviks created it for whatever reason, and that was a grave mistake on their part, to say the least. And therefore, I don't think anybody will really care if this historical mistake that was created by Bolsheviks will cease to exist. No one will care. I will definitely not. RIA Novosti is reporting that according to okay, I mean, this topic is about this long-range strikes again deep inside Russian territory. Okay, so LBC radio station, Western radio station, British one, I believe, although I'm not quite sure about it, reports that US and UK had agreement to allow formally Kyiv regime to strike deep inside Russian territory, although there will be no official announcements about that. So even though there was expectations that, and there is still expectations that before end of this month, most likely in UN statements will be made by Washington's and London's representatives that they are authorizing Kyiv regime to use their long-range weapons to strike deep inside Russian territory. LBC is reporting that there will be no such open statements on this topic, and in a couple of weeks' time, Kyiv regime will start conducting these long-range strikes because they will already have a authorization from Washington and London. Although, by the way, whenever there is talks about long-range strikes, I have to mention that Russian leadership was very clear on this topic. Russian president, foreign minister of Russian Federation, Russian permanent representative into UN, also Russian ambassador to US, and many other officials, by the way, stated openly that Kyiv regime is in no position to be able to conduct these long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory with the Western weapons, because Kyiv regime lacks all the necessary technical tools, including satellite navigation, including creating targeting data and all that kind of stuff. And therefore, Moscow will consider long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory as a direct attack of NATO on Russia, and there will be consequences for that. Russia will take all the necessary steps to neutralize the threats, right? So if LBC is correct, and one way or another, but these long-range strikes will take place, then I guess we will very same time witness also Russian retaliatory strikes. Question is, how will Russia retaliate? At this point, I can understand that probably no one, especially among Western ruling elites, are listening to Russian warnings. Probably they are sure that Russia is bluffing, Russian leadership is bluffing, but there is a bluff, isn't it? Until there is not. So, I was saying for a long time, at some point, due to this constant escalation against Russia, at some point Moscow or Russian leadership may find itself in a corner when they will see no other options but to use some extreme force. And if these long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory with NATO weapons, or if these direct strikes on Russia from NATO will take place, I guess Russian leadership will be exactly in that situation when some very strong decisions has to be made. We will see. I guess. Also, dear friends, RT is reporting that Russia published destructive neoliberal countries list. So Moscow has listed 47 countries whose destructive attitudes contradict Russian values, opening a path for their nationals to seek asylum in Russia if they so choose. Which is interesting, by the way, because I believe there is thousands and possibly tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of citizens in the collective West countries that probably will love to migrate into Russia, and this decision definitely opens a way to do so, right? Easier path, because citizens of US, for example, can apply for asylum, right? And they will, process of they becoming Russian citizen will be fast-tracked. It will take some time, obviously, and migration is always time-consuming and stressful process, undoubtedly. But this is definitely some opening for citizens of the collective West that were thinking or planning to move to Russia, because they see Russia as a last stronghold of their traditional values, family values, and their normality, basically. And the list posted on the Russia's government portal includes the following countries and their territories: Australia, Austria, Albania, Andorra, the Bahamas, Belgium, Bulgaria, Luxembourg, Malta, Micronesia, Monaco, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, South Korea, Romania, San Marino, North Macedonia, Singapore, the US, Taiwan, territory of China, Ukraine, Finland, France, Croatia, Montenegro, the Czech Republic, Montenegro. Well, it is unfortunate that Montenegro's leadership is on the wrong side of history, let's say. The Czech Republic, Switzerland, Sweden, Estonia, and Japan. So quite an impressive list, isn't it? So citizens of these countries have an opening, by the way. If they want to migrate to Russia, they can do it. They can apply for asylum. And that will make it, I guess, a little easier Although, as I said, man, migration, even when you are moving in from one region to another in one country, that is a stressful, by the way. And we just moved from Moscow region to Moscow, and many members of our community know how not easy that process was, especially our community on Patreon and Boosty, because I was sharing some experiences in my videos there. So of course it is difficult to move from one country to another, but it is doable. It is obviously doable. Boosty, dear friends, before I continue, let me notice if I made that this small media project of mine is completely subscriber funded, and if you think Russian channels have, deserve to exist on this field of news and political commentary, or if you think me personally, with my work and my channels deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with a small donation through PayPal. And there is never any issues with PayPal, by the way. So you can donate through PayPal or you can donate through Boosty. I already said, dear friends, that if you are all the Patreon of this project, all you have to do is update your data, and platform should work okay. And if you will become new Patreon from now on, you should not experience any difficulties. And Boosty is very convenient, by the way, because it automatically exchanges currencies into rubles and directs it to my bank account, so I don't have to do nothing. Very convenient in this regards. And you can use Boosty not just as a platform where you can donate, but also you can subscribe. If you can support in long terms, you can subscribe to my page here, where I'm publishing some extra content in the same way that I do on my Patreon page, which is obviously much more developed, because I'm working on Patreon from there, much earlier than I started use actively Boosty. And when it comes to Patreon, dear friends, there are new feature on Patreon. You can have access to, if you are free subscriber, you can use then this feature to donate to the project. You can buy access to each video, which will cost about $3. I mean, one member of our community already donated this way $3, and well, hopefully this feature will help her. This feature will help her in the future to improve her financial situation of this project. Although, of course, if you ask me, of course, I would prefer more Patreons on Patreon platform. And I hope before end of this year, our community on Patreon will reach 200. That will be, of course, great, because in that case, most likely this project will left this situation, this initial phase of any business, basically any project, when survivability is in question constantly. If our community will reach on Patreon 200 and more, then probably question of survivability is would not be as relevant as it is now. All the links, dear friends, are under this video in the description box to PayPal, to Boosty, to Patreon. So I hope you will consider to support, and many thanks to all the members of our community who supported and continues to support this project. RT is reporting, dear friends, that top Hezbollah commander was killed in an Israeli airstrike, and Hezbollah confirmed this information. So Ibrahim Akil, the head of Hezbollah's elite Rod 1 unit, has been killed in a targeted strike in Beirut, Lebanon. The Israel Defense Force announced on Friday. And as I said, Hezbollah confirmed this information. Also, Zglad newspaper is reporting that Iran promising to retaliate for killing of their Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. I was thinking topic of retaliation, Iran's retaliation, is closed, because quite some time has passed since the assassination of by Israeli secret services, with Israeli secret services involvement. But no, Tehran once again is stating that there will be retaliation. So some escalation again, additional escalation in the Middle East, which is on the brink of regional war, unfortunately. RIA Novosti is reporting that in Pacific's combined exercises of the Russian and Chinese fleet has begun today. Well, almost every other week, by the way, definitely every month, there are some reports about some combined exercises, military exercises of Chinese and Russian militaries, being Air Force, being ground forces or Navy, and well, today is no exception. Бейбу взаимодействие 2024, Бейбу Cooperation, or Cooperation 2024 military exercises has begun, and well, in response, US is deploying additional forces to its Alaska, which is of course a state, used to be part of Russia, by the way, but it's a part of US now, and reasoning for increase of US military presence in Alaska is exactly this increased Russian-Chinese military cooperation. RT is also reporting that UK's debt level jumped to 60-year high, according to data. Government borrowing has reached 100% of their country's GDP, according to Office of National Statistics. So the UK's national debt stands at 100% of the country's annual economic output, and is at its highest level since the 1960s. The Office for National Statistics revealed on Friday government borrowing surged to 13.7 billion pounds, which is 18.2 billion US dollars in August, equaling to their annual value of total economic production, according to their ONC. Borrowing up to over 3 billion last month on 2023's figure, and was the third highest August borrowing on record. ONC chief economist Grant Fitzner said, okay, so UK's debt is 60 years high, which definitely not a good indicator for sure. Although I guess UK will manage to deal with this issue. After all, US has debt in astronomical figures, but it still operates, right? US economy is still number one in this world, and there seems like this debt, at least until certain point, don't really influences that much economical development. Although, of course, if you borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow, at some point you will spend enormous amount of money just to service your debt, your loans, and that's the big issue, of course. And US is definitely getting closer and closer to that point, because according to some reports, it will not take long, maximum maybe decade and or less, and US will spend every single year about $1 trillion just to do some service, just for service of its some 34 trillion currently 34 trillion loan. But can you imagine how much this debt will increase around in next couple of years? It will probably reach 40 trillion in just 2-3 years time. So yes, not really optimistic news about economy of the UK, but right now, of course, Great Britain or UK can deal with this issue. Serbia moves to bring back conscription, which is interesting. So government of Serbia has agreed to reintroduce conscription, which was abolished 14 years ago. Well, understandable decision of their Belgrade, because we all know that Western ruling class is constantly escalating with Serbia and using Kosovo for this usually. And I think at some point in the future, most likely they will be there will be military conflict in the Balkans, and Serbia will definitely try to reclaim its historical land. But yet again, who knows? Who knows? But I think Belgrade will try at least, because Kosovo are going to be constant destruction. Kosovo, if it stays, as it is currently, partially recognized republic, then it will always be a security threat for Serbian people and for Serbia also. RT is reporting that India on a track to become a third largest economy of this world, which is definitely great news. So India is on track to become the third largest economy in this world by 2031, according to S&P Global. It is currently the fifth largest economy in the world by GDP classic measures. Although in terms of PPP, India is in a better place. But I mean, in terms of GDP, it's on fifth place now. It is currently the fifth largest economy in the world, behind US, China, Japan, and Germany. Analysts are expecting their country to become a 10 trillion economy by the end of this decade. So great news for India. Great news for India, and all the luck, by the way, because India is a strategical partner of Russia, and whatever is good for India, I believe, is good for Russia also, and vice versa. By the way, whatever is good for Russia, I believe, good for India also, because of this strategical partnership. Last news agency is reporting that gold, by the way, is reaching new heights almost every other day, record heights, and yesterday, for example, new record was reached about 7 o'clock in the evening Moscow time, when 1 ounce was selling for $2,646.50. And dear friends, give it another couple of years and gold will definitely reach 3,000 and eventually maybe even 4,000. Once the process of the dollarization will further intensify, once BRICS member states will come up with alternative financial and banking system, alternative reserve currency, of course, many investors will withdraw their investments from Western states, especially from US and also from Europe, obviously, and they will invest in BRICS or in commodities, by the way, and of course, gold will be one of their commodities to invest. And well, I will end this update on this news that Switzerland to expel hundreds of Russian scientists. Definitely not the step that neutral state should commit, is not it? And not even neutral. I mean, any state should commit. I mean, what issues Switzerland has with the scientists, by the way. But I mean, Russophobia is a disease that I guess cannot be treated, and Swiss leadership definitely has that disease. They are Russophobes. So hundreds of Russian researchers working at the CERN particle physics laboratory in Switzerland will have to leave their alpine country later this year. The journal Nature reported on Wednesday. Okay, Russia should never participate in this project, this collider project, to begin with, and should spend all their resources, money, materials, and of course intellectual resources to invest inside the Russia. But lessons learned, I guess, lessons learned, and I hope such mistakes will never be made again. I am not against cooperation with the collective West countries, but circumstances have to change, obviously. Until Western societies will regain control over their own destinies and over their own countries and will put in power decent people, of course, political class in the West cannot be trusted, and therefore Moscow and any other country, by the way, in this world should be very careful while dealing with their collective West. I mean, it's just that obvious. Anyways, this is it for now. Hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. This is the only way, dear friends, we can at least try and tackle this extremely aggressive algorithm, especially on YouTube. If you notice, my yesterday's update was crushed, by the way, by YouTube's algorithm. Absolutely crushed, which is unfortunate, but yet again, I mean, sometimes we are managing to influence algorithm, many times not. But yes, if you can, please click that like button, leave some commentary, share information about my channel in real life with your friends on platforms, any of their platforms or on internet. I believe there are a huge number of citizens worldwide that would like to know about the channel, Russian channel that reports about news and from Russia and shares Russian perspective. I'm not claiming that I'm sharing Russian perspective, but I'm a citizen of Russia, and it is obvious that many people here in Russia probably will have a similar take on this issue or that issue. So yes, I mean, if you can help me reach these people worldwide that want to know about a channel from Russia and to receive news from Russia. And finally, yes, if you like this channel, dear friends, if you like my work, you can support if you want to through with donation through PayPal or Boosty platform, or by subscribing to my Patreon and the Boosty pages, on which, by the way, I have some extra content on regular basis, including second news updates that are always packed with news and are usually in walk and talk style. I'm just walking around Moscow here and recording those updates, and I know many members of our community like that style of updates. So all the links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Once again, have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Take care and bye for now.